Hello, everyone, and welcome to TC Band Presents The Path to Anti-Racism with Donzel and Adonia. My name is Eric Alexander. I'm the founder and CEO of TC Band, and I'm excited to have you all here this afternoon. The agenda for today is a TC Band overview for those who aren't familiar with our organization, an ARC presentation. We'll do a Q&A, and then we'll wrap up. And wrap up can mean different things depending on what part of the world you're in. It could mean dinner, or it could mean bedtime. So please do whichever makes sense for you and your part of the world. So I'll start with our vision, which is professional excellence through strategic collaboration. Our mission is to leverage the scale, scope, and skills embodied within our Black affinity networks and broader community to deliver, build, and to create. Deliver quality professional development, build cross-organizational and community connections, and create a safe space to learn, share, and grow together. And none of this work to be done without our great board. They're innovative and creative and passionate about giving back to the community, and they leverage their talents to do that on a consistent basis. I would highlight three of our board members, Eric Black and Janelle Foster, who's on the call tonight, as well as Ken Charles. Our founding board members. So they've been with me on this journey since 2013, and I haven't scared them off yet. So I appreciate their dedication to the cause and their support for the initiative. I also want to highlight the core organizations at the bottom of the screen: Best Buy, Cargill, General Mills, Target, Wells Fargo, and US Bank. They're our sponsoring organizations. So when we have in-person events, they're responsible for sponsoring those. So we appreciate their ongoing support as well. So if you want to learn more about TC Band, you can go to our website, tcband.org with 2 Ds. You can join our community on LinkedIn. You can follow us on Instagram. You can send us an email. And if you want to learn more about our events, you want to go back into our archive and watch previous events, or if you want to replay this event, you can do that on our YouTube site, TC Band, the channel. So we received a lot of outpouring of support for this event, this series of events, more than we kind of expected. And so what does that look like for us? So we had registrants from 24 states in the US and 3 countries, our partners to the north in Canada, as well as Egypt. We have representation from over 40 different companies, and we had over 135 comments or questions as part of the registration. So that just identifies the level of interest across the world and the passion for the sessions that we've identified via the questions that were posed in advance. I know Donzel and Adonai had a great job of walking through those and adding those into the presentation. So we look forward to hearing those updates.
I just renewed them.
How?
As part of our series, we have 3 sessions. The first session was held last week, which was realizing your worth. And then our next session after this is next week. It's navigating a successful career. So if you, we welcome you and invite you to join us for next week's session as well. As part of our Black History Month series, we wanted to highlight Black history hero. We wanted to focus on someone who wasn't as well known as some of the other heroes. And so we wanted to walk through and highlight Henry Highland Garnet. He was born in December 1815. He was an American abolitionist, minister, educator, and orator. Having escaped as a child from slavery in Maryland with his family, he grew up in New York City. He was educated at the African Free School and other institutions and became an advocate of militant abolitionism. He became a minister and based his drive for abolition on religion. Garnet was a prominent member of the movement that led beyond moral suasion toward more political action. Renowned for his skills as a public speaker, he urged Black Americans to take action and claim their own destinies. So that's our highlight for the month for this session, Henry Highland Garnet. Now for today's session, now everyone's here to talk about anti-racism and art and the path to anti-racism. Donzel and Adonai did a great job of pulling together information to talk about the work with art, as well as preparing to answer the questions that the group provided for us. They both did a great job of pulling together their individual bios, so I won't spend a lot of time introducing them. I'll let them do that themselves using their slides. So with no further ado, I'd like to welcome Donzel Leggett.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. Can you hear me? Am I coming through okay?
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's such an honor to be back with the TC Band group. I think I was with you maybe a year and a half ago, and it's was a pleasure then. It's a privilege and a pleasure now. So very, very happy to be here. There's three things we want to do today. The first is just to remind you what ARC is all about. Give you a little bit of progress report on how we've been doing since we talked the last time, and just give you a perspective on what we need from you. So we'll do that. We're also going to make sure and spotlight one of our tremendous members who's also a youth member, Adonai. Adonai is tremendous. She's going to introduce herself, and you're going to be as inspired as I have been for the 2 years that I've known her. And again, we're going to come right back to what we need from you, TC Band, to help us along with our mission. So it should be fun. We're going to try to answer some of your questions as we go, but we're also going to try to leave a lot of time to make sure that we get all your questions answered, as many of them as we can. So we can advance the slide. I'll talk a little bit about myself. For those of you who do not know me, again, my name is Donzel Leggett. I'm originally from Key West, Florida. And I'm now living actually full-time in Florida. I'm in Fort Myers, about 5 hours from my parents. I'm actually going to take off and drive down there to see them tomorrow. They're both 86 years old. They're getting up there, and it's time for me and my siblings to spend as much time as we possibly can with them. So I'm looking forward to making that drive. My family immigrated from Bahamas. That's why you see that Bahamian flag. I still have a lot of family in the Bahamas. I believe it's very important, for us, as Americans, I think, to really reach out as much as we can to other countries, other cultures. Traveling expands the mind more than almost anything else. Being able to get out of this country and see how different countries operate, how different cultures operate, see different people in different situations, try different foods, and learn different languages. You see it, I've learned Portuguese and Spanish. I've dabbled a little bit in French, dabbled a little bit in Mandarin, but I'm nowhere close to being able to speak those languages fluently. I've been very fluent. I've been able to go to Spain, go to Mexico, go to Brazil, and walk around and just talk to people. And you learn so much when you can converse in the local language. And it's been a real blossoming for me in the second part of my life, being able to speak those languages and travel and get around. I've been with General Mills for 26 years. Before that, I spent 4 years with the Quaker Oats Company. I've always worked in supply chain operations. For the last 10, 11 years, I've been working mostly with our teams outside of the United States. My family is the biggest thing for me. I've got my wife and I have been married for 28 years. We have 4 young adults. You see several of their pictures there. Very proud of the young lady on the far right of the screen there. That's our youngest daughter, Gianna. She decided to study abroad in South Korea last fall semester. No push from us. She figured it out all on her own. We went and had a chance to visit her, and that's a picture of her and my wife and I in her dorm in South Korea. So family's big for me, but I also believe in staying fit, both physically and mentally. So I read a lot, I write a lot. I try to work out as much as I can, play sports, and try to also keep myself rich with activism, being involved in the community and doing things like this. Being at the center, taking action, getting people like Adonai involved, hopefully getting many of you involved, taking action to hopefully make significant and positive change in our community. So that's me, and I'll jump into the rest of it if you go to the next slide. So ARC, the Anti-Racism Commitment Coalition. How did that come about? Well, if you remember, or if you don't, I founded the organization in October of 2020. And it all happened because when George Floyd was murdered, it really was a devastating moment for so many of us, but it touched me like no other event that had touched me prior to that. And there have been some other horrific events, but this one in particular, the way that it happened, the cruelty, the inhumanity, and the fact that it happened only 30 minutes from my house, really bothered me, and it pissed me off. And so I made a video on the spur of the moment, basically espousing and expressing the feelings that I had at that moment and exposing what I felt was the truth. and issuing a call to action. That video's been viewed over 50,000 times. But because of that, and I started hearing a lot of response. I thought it was going to be a lot of negative response and pushback. I pushed it out on social media. I'm not really a social media person, but I pushed it out on every platform there was, even LinkedIn. And there were a few people who didn't like it and pushed back. But the vast majority of people that responded were people who supported it, were very happy that I sent that video. They said it expressed what they were feeling. However, they didn't know what else to do. They wanted to do something. Many of them said, I want to do something, Donzel. I agree with you, but I don't know what to do. I'm only one person. How can I make a difference? How can we really change racism? It seems such a big, daunting task. How can I do something? That's what so many of them were saying. So as I thought about this, I said, you know what? Maybe there's something that I can do to bring these people together and start a mini movement, get the ball rolling, almost like a small snowball rolling downhill that increases in size and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So I decided to form this organization, and I centered it on each individual person. If we could transform a person and they could transform others, we could make a difference. That way, everyone and anyone, no matter who you are, could make a significant impact. That was the idea of the organization. That was the beginnings of the Anti-Racism Commitment Coalition, or ARC. And our mission, our vision at ARC is to build a racism-free world and a world that's free of hate. Our mission is to provide inspiration, education, and support for you to transform, practice, and spread anti-racism and anti-hate through your own personal networks. And that's what differentiates ARC from other organizations. We're focused on personal transformation. We're focused on you and getting you to transform yourself and to take action to transform others. There are many organizations focused on driving out and stamping out the evil that is racism and that is hate. Many of these organizations, though, the vast majority, are focused on doing things like protesting, lobbying, demonstrating, trying to organize voting rights, get people to vote, get out the vote, trying to work on changing legislation, actively lobbying, doing things, anything they can to get legislation changed to end racism. All of that stuff is needed. It's all needed. However, we believe that there needs to be a focus on the individual, and we believe that's what's been missed. We've had a lot of laws in this country changed over the last 100 to 150 years. It hasn't ended racism. In fact, we've seen an increase in racism from where it was even when I was in high school. From the stories I hear from Adonai and others that are still in school, they're different than what I was experiencing. So it clearly has not eradicated. I believe the reason is because we haven't really focused on individuals. That's what differentiates us at ARC. We're focused on transforming people at the individual level to transform themselves to be anti-racist. The great Nelson Mandela once said, and this is on our website, no one is born hating another person because of the color of their skin or their background or their religion. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. But love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. See, because racism at its core, and this is me talking now, is taught person to person and passed person to person. So to eradicate it, you have to replace it with anti-racism. We must teach and spread anti-racism person to person, family to family, friend group to friend group, clique to clique, posse to posse, network to network. This enables us to, in effect, eradicate racism and spread anti-racism through what I call the exponential network effect. One person influences and helps 10 people, 10 of their friends, transform and adopt anti-racism. And they convince those 10 friends to influence 10 of their friends. Then these 100 people influence 10 of their friends. Then this group of 1,000 people influences 10 of their friends. Then this group of 10,000 people influence 10 of their friends. Before long, that one person, that one single person that didn't think that they could make a difference, that thought that they were too insignificant, they couldn't go up at the White House and make a speech. They're not Ben Crump. They can't go in front of a courtroom and convince the judge and jury to side with these African-American parents. They can't do that. But this one person was able to influence 100,000 people to transform and to adopt anti-racism and anti-hate. Now, again, this all starts with a focus on personal transformation. That's what we do at ARC. And we have a 3-step process that we believe leads to personal transformation. There are 3 simple steps, very simple steps, but they're not easy. They're not easy in practice because personal transformation means commitment. It means courage. It means having the character to take action to transform others. But these simple steps are first erase your ignorance about racism and hate. All of us have an ignorance about it. You may have less than others, but all of us have some. You have to work to erase that ignorance. Secondly, then you got to educate yourself about anti-racism, what it truly means to be anti-racist, and person who's against hate. And then third, build the character, the confidence to stand up, speak out, and take action to spread anti-racism and anti-hate and make positive change happen. As I said, it's not easy. But I've also said to a lot of people many times, because I've experienced this, challenging those closest to us is sometimes the hardest thing to do because of the relationship involved. But it's also can be the easiest thing to do because of the fact that we have that same relationship that gives us credibility to challenge those who are closest to us. I know many of you have asked, how can we eradicate racism? Will we ever 100% eradicate racism? Probably not. Probably not. I'm thinking many of us would like to have the financial security of Oprah Winfrey. You probably won't, I'm guessing. Most of us won't. Maybe Eric would, but most of us probably won't. But I don't think it stops us from continuing to dream about it. Go to work for it, invest your money and save it, and strive for it, right? We probably will never get there. Like I say, Eric might, but most of us probably won't. But if we keep working, if we keep dreaming, if we keep striving, eventually we hit a tipping point that gets us into enough financial security that at least we can retire comfortably. With racism and hate, it's the same thing. We're trying to get to that tipping point, the point where there's enough of a majority of people who will not tolerate racism, who will not tolerate hate, who won't accept it, to where it's in the same category of pedophilia, that anyone who espouses to it is shunned. They're not accepted, to where very few people would associate or befriend or tolerate a racist in their employ, in their network, in their friend group, as an acquaintance. Today, racist, misogynist, anti-Semites, homophobes, Islamophobes, etc., are tolerated and accepted. They're accepted as family, as friends, as public figures, as associates. Racist. But man, he's a good golfer. I like having him on my golf foursome. Well, you know, man, that fool's an anti-Semite, but he's got a great jump shot, man. He's good on my fantasy team. She's a misogynist. She's a racist. She's a homophobic pig. But she's good and really big on tax breaks. I need a tax break. She hates Asian people. And she's old. And she's from a different time. This is what must end. This is our goal at ARC. It starts with each person. And it's not that person you're talking about. Those people, we're probably not going to change. It's the people who said that we're trying to change at ARC. It's the people who tolerate it, who say, you know what, he still could be my golf buddy. I can still vote for that person. I still want him on my fantasy team. Those people can be transformed. Those people think that it's okay to not be racist, that they're good. These are the people who say they're allies. These are the people that we've got to transform to be anti-racist, to move from this accepting, this tolerating, this looking the other way, to a point where they're transformed and they're ready to help build a movement big enough to hit a tipping point. A tipping point. This is what ARC's all about. We're not about building allies. We're not about empathy and you could cry on my shoulder. We're about transforming people to be anti-racist, willing to do the work and transform people, to have courage to transform people, to actually work against racism. Not tolerate it, not accept it. Have the courage and confidence and knowledge to spread it. So if you go to the next slide, Eric, I'm going to quickly hit these two slides just to let you know what we've done. We had a retreat at the beginning of 2021. We brought all our ARC members together and we brainstormed, okay, we had a year, we got this thing going. What do we want to do going forward? Going into 2022. We did it at the end of 2021. And we came up with 3 key strategies. The first one was all about awareness. The second was all about building a learning and development plan to help transform people. The third one was all about building the financial resources and capital to fund all our actions. On strategy 1, on getting the word out there, we grew our total social media by 10% across 5 different platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and even WhatsApp. We even initiated a partnership with Shireen Daniels. If you're on LinkedIn, you probably know who Shireen Daniels is. She's author of the anti-racist organization. Did a podcast with her at the end of last year. I think it was episode 10, the last episode of the podcast. She's also the founder and managing director of HR Rewire. She's in the UK, and we're planning to do things with her when she comes to the US here in the summer. Please keep your eye on our website because we'd love for you to participate when she comes. We also launched a newsletter that's got over 200 subscribers. We also even initiated Google Ads. That's bringing a lot of attention, and we're reaping some of the rewards of that this year. On strategy 2, we launched over 10 total episodes of the deep dive, which Adonai will talk about, in our community and action events, which focus on things like food sovereignty or food scarcity, colorism, racism. They're all been recorded. They're all available on our website to take a look at. Did 10 episodes of the Arc of Change podcast. And we also developed the first draft of our learning and development personal transformation program that takes people through those 3 steps. Got the first sort of rough draft of that. I gave feedback. We're now ready to start polishing it this year. And then strategy 3, we achieved our 501c3 status. We developed our initial fundraising strategy, and our board committed to a $35,000 matching gift. That's still available to be matched. We'd love for you to donate. Now, if you go to the next slide, all those 3 strategies, we did another retreat at the beginning of this year. All those 3 strategies are evergreen. We got great progress. We're off to a great start in awareness. We're actually going to be migrating our website, to get us more functionality. So you'll probably see some different functionality of our website maybe in a couple of months. Building partnerships because of Google Ads. We've had several organizations contact us, which is outstanding. Our learning and development transformation plan will be ready for our first test cohort later this year. If you would be willing to be part of that test cohort to go through our learning and development plan on how to transform the anti-racism, please contact me. We'd love to get you in the queue. And then, and third, we're going to be launching a big, more holistic fundraising strategy this year. Please look for that. But we added a 4th strategy, and it was to continue to recruit our volunteers, more importantly, to recognize them. That's one of the reasons why Adonai is here tonight. Adonai was one of the first people to join ARC. She was 14 at the time, reached out to me and said, I want to make a difference. How many of you at 14 reached out to a nonprofit and said, I want to join and make a difference, and then start a talk show on that platform? This young lady did that. I want to turn it over to Adonai and let her tell you about herself and all the great things that she's doing. Adonai.
Thank you so much, Donzel, for bringing me to this event and actually recruiting me to be in ARC. It's really been an amazing opportunity. So to present myself, my name is Adonai Yidnekachew. I am 15 years old and I live in Chaska, Minnesota. I am a 10th grader at Chaska High School. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and my journey and path towards anti-racism at ARC. So just to give you an insight about who I am, I have a family of 9 that I'm really proud to say of. I have 7 siblings and my parents as well. My parents are from Ethiopia, just to give you guys a little background. And I am a proud volunteer of ARC. So in ARC, what I do is I volunteer and I help around with community and action events. So I am part of the events and resources co-director. So I help direct events that we have for our community and action events, as well as put resources in the website to give resources for members and people who are interested. I also, like Donzel mentioned, I'm part of the ARC of Change deep dive show, which we recently created in the past year. So that has been a really amazing opportunity as I've been able to have conversations with many different people and talk about issues about racism all over the world and real world issues. So I have been really excited to be a part of ARC. To talk about what I do outside of ARC, I have a lot of things on the slide. That's mainly because I believe I'm a woman who's very hardworking and I cannot sit down and do nothing. Being bored is like the worst thing that could ever happen to me, right? So I have to constantly be doing something, making myself busy and challenging myself. So that's the main reason why I do a lot of extracurricular activities. And so some of the extracurricular activities I do is I'm part of the Chaska speech team. I do math league, so I really love math. My sport is running, so I do track and cross country. I'm a big runner. As well as I am part of MN Youth, which is a program where 36 students are selected from the Minnesota State to speak on legislation and also work on community issues. So I'm focusing on environmental justice and environmental racism. So that's mainly what I'm focusing on in MN Youth. I also have a small business that I created just recently called MEO Journals. So I sell like journals, planners, and stationery that focus on guiding you to like a healthier lifestyle and a more organized life. That's something that I recently started up as a small business. And in response to joining ARC for a little over 2 years, I created a club at my school called SOAR. And so SOAR stands for Student Organization Against Racism, and it was completely inspired by ARC. And in this organization at our school, I gathered me and a few friends to start it up after hearing about a lot of racist incidents that were happening at our school. And I decided to fight the racism at our school through educating others about anti-racism, right? Taking that ideology from ARC about eliminating racism and spreading anti-racism. So I bring that to our schools, and I've been having a really amazing and fun opportunity with that and talking about social events, creating social events for students to be a part of, and also using social media as well. The main reason why I wanted to share all these extracurricular activities with you is because of one main reason. And that one main reason is because of ARC. To tell you the 100% honest truth is ARC was the start for me. It was a complete start for me. I joined this organization when I was in 8th grade, right? And I will explain today my journey towards joining ARC and how this led me to do all of these other things throughout my community and continue to work and be present in my community. So you can go on to the next slide. So to talk about my journey towards ARC, I'm going to talk about from the very beginning. So how in the world did I join ARC? So for me, before ARC, before all of this, in elementary school, I was completely blind to racism. I didn't think that the color of my skin could have any effect on how I would be treated, could have any effect on my education or how people would view me. I could not process. I was too naive to process that the color of my skin could have any effect on my safety when I walk down the streets at night or at day. I could not process that at that young age. So I was completely blind to racism. And throughout my life, I have been seeing events of, for example, police brutality in my community in Minneapolis. For example, Yidnekachew, when I was around 10 years old. I did see that event, and my parents tried to explain to me what was happening, but I just couldn't fathom, I couldn't process that he was killed merely because of the color of his skin. And the same color of his skin was the color of my skin. And I couldn't process that that was true. But like Donzel said, on May 25, 2020, when George Floyd died, and I was standing in front of the TV watching the video of him and the police officer putting his knee to his neck, when I was sitting there and watching that on TV, I knew I couldn't sit down and watch that anymore. I knew I couldn't sit down and be like, oh no, this is happening once again. I knew I had to do something about it. I knew I couldn't sit down and watch this happen again, because if it was gonna happen to him, it could happen to my brother, it could happen to my father, it could happen to my mother, my sister, it could happen to me next. So I knew I couldn't sit down and watch this happen again and again, and I would not allow it to happen again. So the first thing that I decided to do was to educate myself about the issues going on around my community and about racism. And in the process of me educating myself and researching about anti-racism, I came across ARC, and I came across it through social media. And so I joined the organization, and everyone was so welcoming. Donzel was so welcoming to allow me to join this organization and to be a volunteer in this organization. And I've had a really amazing experience. And through being a part of ARC, the main thing that I learned, and that is so important for me, that I continue to carry on in my life, is the idea of being an anti-racist. ARC has helped me truly focus on the journey toward becoming an anti-racist. When I first joined this organization, right, I heard it was called Anti-Racism Commitment Coalition. And so when its focus was on eliminating racism and spreading anti-racism, I decided to look at the word anti-racism, right? When I first looked at it, I was using my vocab skills, and I was like, okay, anti means not, right, or against, and racism means being racist. So that means being an anti-racist is being a not racist. And that's what I thought at the very beginning. But through my journey through ARC and being a part of ARC and being a part of the conversations, the community, the events, I've learned what it truly means to be an anti-racist. And I've noticed that there is a complete difference between being a not racist, which is being completely ignorant to the issues and saying, oh, I'm not racist about this, even though I said this racist thing, I'm not racist. It's completely ignoring the issues of racism and allowing racism to spread even more. So through being a part of ARC, I realized what it truly means to be an anti-racist and what it means to be on the path of an anti-racist. And what that means is actively educating yourself about issues going around you, actively educating yourself about the cultures and history around you, and actively fighting against racism in your community. And that's what it truly means to be an anti-racist. And that's what I've learned through being a part of ARC. So it has been a really amazing opportunity to learn what it means to be an anti-racist. And I continue my journey even today to become an anti-racist, because becoming an anti-racist is realizing that this journey doesn't end. There is no end to becoming an anti-racist until truly the whole world is changed. So being an anti-racist is a continuous process that never ends, right? It's continually allowing yourself to realize that, hey, I'm going to educate myself about this situation. I'm going to educate myself about that situation, that community, that culture, and continue to do that. So that's what I've learned through ARC, and it's an amazing process. And being a part of the organization, amazing people that are part of it. So I really thank Donzel for allowing me to be part of this organization. And even ARC has helped me with my extracurricular activities, coming back to what I was talking about before in the very beginning. And the reason why I wanted to throw all those activities out on you guys is because ARC has truly inspired all of them and has allowed me to start this journey to go in my community on the local level, on the state level, to continue to actively fight against racism. And I'm continuously trying to educate myself about issues in my community. So I believe ARC has truly, truly, truly changed how I view the world and allowed me to be more open-minded, to be a part of my community and continue to actively fight against racism. So just to close off for my spotlight today, I just want to say that ARC has really helped me through the deep dive show, which I have been able to speak with guest speakers to talk about racism and continuously educate others about racism, as well as having community and action events where I get to talk with many people about different issues. So I believe ARC has been a really life-changing moment for me. And I truly believe, as Donzel had mentioned earlier, that I truly believe that this world can become an equal place. And I know that maybe I can't do it all by myself. But if I'm willing to change one person, if I'm willing to change 2 people, if I'm willing to change 10 people in my circle, I truly believe that one day we can look at this world and say, we will all be equal. So thank you so much for allowing me to have this spotlight today. I bring it back to you, Donzel.
Drop the mic. That was, oh my God, I'm so proud. That is, I had no idea what she was going to say. That is unbelievable, tremendous. A lot of the questions you guys asked, I think just hearing Adonai probably answered a lot of your questions. But I want to close off by leaving with a couple of asks for you. The first thing is, you've heard from us. Hopefully you're inspired. We'd love for you to spread the word. There's really, really good content on our website. Please go visit it at joinarc.org. Like I said, it's going to be migrating to a different host. It'll be invisible to you, but you'll see probably in a couple of months, it'll probably have a little bit more, a slightly different feel, a little bit more functionality. But what we have there now is still really good. Lots of recordings, videos are there. All the podcasts are there. Past deep dive shows are there. All of it's there. It's tremendous. Check us out on social media. We're still very active. We've got actually 3 board members on the call right now. One of them, Tommy Fung. Tommy actually does our WhatsApp, which is a lot of our our WeChat group. He does WeChat, which a lot of our Asian friends who are outside of the country are on WeChat. Tommy makes sure and translates a lot of what we have on the other social media platforms and sends them through WeChat. So thank you, Tommy, for doing that. A lot of our graphics, the graphic you see behind me, this very cool Black History Month graphic. Chris Cagle is our board member. He designed the graphic, designs all of our graphics, designed our logo, which is trademarked. Thank you, Chris. We have a newsletter as well that we launched that is very informative, comes out every other month. It's a short, targeted read. Please go to our website and subscribe, or you can send me a note and I'll make sure you get it. So spread the word about it. Check out our upcoming events. February 28th is a community in action event. You've probably heard crazy Governor DeSantis here in Florida banning AP Black History. We've got a lot of students. We've got several students in Key West High School, where my sister is a educator there. Several of them want to speak about this. Adonai is organizing some folks from her school. We're going to have an event to talk about this censoring of Black history in our schools. That will be a tremendous event. Again, please support the youth and come listen to what they're dealing with and what they have to say. And then Adonai has a talk show coming out as well on March 16th. And then the next 2 podcasts, one focused on Black history, will be launching in February. And then I'll be interviewing 3 of our very strong ARC board members. One of them is on the call as well, Erica Thiem. She's our secretary. She'll be one of the women I'll be interviewing about International Women's Day. So that'll be fantastic. Please donate. We got a lot of great content that's coming out. We're building our overall learning and development plan. We're going to be positioning it within a learning management system to make it easier for everyone, including yourself, to absorb. But it would be good if we had some funds to help us do that. Like I said, the board has a $35,000 matching donation that's out there right now. So every dollar you give equates into $2. Every $4 is $8. Every $100 is $200. Every $1,000, $2,000. So please give, easy to do. There's the website there. And then we'd love for you to volunteer. You can see we're excited. You heard what Adonai had to say. It not only did it help enrich her, but it helped build how she was doing other things in her community. So please come join us and then begin your transformation process. Whether you do any of these things here or not, begin your transformation process by erasing your ignorance about racism and hate. Start learning about anti-racism. Like Adonai said, it's not being a racist. Several of you asked about allyship. It's not allyship the way it's been defined in corporate America. Allies, in the real true sense of the word, go to war with people. They fight, they put their lives on the line. That's what the Allies did against the Axis powers in World War II. But now, an ally means someone who pats you on the back, that cries with you. That's not what anti-racism is all about. It's, are you willing to speak out, to stand up, and to take action to break down the systems that exist in racism? Are you willing to take on the people who are perpetuating it? And are you willing to spread anti-racism? So start that process. Use our resources. Call us anytime. We're ready to help you. So thank you, Eric. We'll open it up to any questions.
Thank you, Donzel and Adonai. Outstanding job. This is must-see TV. I'm like kind of locked in. I can't even turn away. I got like a little message, but outstanding. I appreciate the passion and the focus and the clarity of purpose from your organization. So I really appreciate that. I will open it up for questions. I do have some questions from the survey that I can share while I'm pinning others from the audience. So if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand and then I'll acknowledge you and then you can ask that question aloud. But until then, I'll walk through some questions that I have prepared from the registrants. So the first set is around organizations. So is there a role for organizations in the anti-racism movement? I know your passion is around I as an individual and what can I do myself and then my extended network. Is there an organizational play here?
I believe there is. My personal opinion is that diversity, equity, inclusion, as in its current iteration, I think is not enough. I think it creates an environment of tolerance and acceptance, but not of transformative change. In other words, I can be Donzel's, I can accept him when I'm at work. When I'm on the street, I don't care about a black dude. If he comes back, I don't even want to talk to him. I don't recognize him. That's not, to me, what's going to change organizations. If organizations truly want to be successful and have diversity be a strength for them, then I believe anti-racism and anti-hate, Adonai described it and defined it for you. It's not about accepting, it's not about tolerating, it's about breaking down the systems that exist. It's about having real conversations and having a culture that says, if you're going to be here with us, and this is the way that we operate, then we expect you to be like that at home. We expect you to live that way. That's not how it is today. Again, this ally mentality is kind of a similar thing. I'm not an ally. I'm not an ally for women. I'm a soldier for fighting for women's rights. I will put myself on the line for women's rights. I'm not going to put them on my shoulder and let them cry. I'm going to stand in front and fight and help and do the work. Two different things. And I think that right now, too many companies are kind of in that mode of tolerance, and that's how they look at DEI. What we're trying to do with ARC is we're trying to build our learning and development program, professionalize it, make it more approachable, and not only make it, for the individuals can sign up, but take it to companies who are willing and understand that they've got to do something more. Because I believe as young people like Adonai enter the workforce, they're going to demand this type of change. They're not going to sit there and accept the old way of, we'll tolerate this when you're here. No, they're going to want real change. So that's what we believe, and that's why we're preparing this. Like I said, we need a test cohort later this year. We'd love for any of you to please sign up, let us know that you're willing to kind of go through that, help us make it better, so that not only would it be good for individuals, nonprofits who want to sign up, but we could take it to the 3Ms, to the Medtronics of the world, to the Best Buys of the world. That's what we'd like to do. Adna, anything you'd like to add?
I would like to add one last thing. I know I can't really speak more about like the workforce as I'm like literally 15 years old, but I do want to say one thing about like diversity, equity, and inclusion departments. From what I've heard about people at diversity and equity inclusion departments, sorry, I can't say that. I feel like it's really important that they're not just a department, right? Because I feel like a lot of times it's like diversity, equity, inclusion. We have this department. Now we're all good. Everything's going to be good. Like no racism, right? But I feel like it shouldn't just be a department. It should be incorporated inside companies and their ideals and what they do in their daily life. Because truly diversity, equity, and inclusion means making sure that all employees are safe in their environments, right? And safe in their working environments. So it's employers' responsibility to make sure that people are safe. So it shouldn't just be a department. I feel like it should be incorporated in their ideals in general, I guess. I guess that's kind of what I would say. But yeah, thank you.
Great point, Adonai. It should be a part of the way you do work. Shouldn't have to be separate. Donzel, I think we have some volunteers for you in the chat. So a couple questions. So can you bring children? Is there an age limit for volunteers? And if someone signs up to volunteer, what should they expect to do as a volunteer?
Yeah, we don't have an age limit. However, for anyone who signs up that's younger than 18, we do have their parents sign a waiver just to review that they can do work with us. Especially if they want to do things like Adonai wanted to do the talk show. She was willing to go on social media. We wanted to make sure her parents understood that and that they signed off on that. So that's one thing that's important. We have it. I think the youngest person we've probably had is probably Adonai. Thinking about it, probably 14. We had a 14-year-old also that volunteered and actually wrote a blog for us. If you go on our website and look at Lyra's blog, Lyra Anaya is a young lady from Key West. She's 14. So we had several folks that have been younger than 18 that are in high school in Key West. I think Adonai's sister Yabi wrote some scripts. She continues to volunteer for us. So yes, children can volunteer. If they're younger than 18, we just need their parents to sign off. We have a formal form that Erica, as our secretary, kind of keeps. In terms of what you could expect, it'll be real work. I mean, so what we try to do is make sure that we have kind of departments, if you will. So we'll talk to you to kind of figure out what are your skill sets and what would you like to do, and then we'll kind of marry you with that department. So there was a lady who said, "Hey, I want to volunteer." She said, "I've been a librarian. I know a lot about books. I've read a lot of books. I know how to sort through books and select the ones that are best, kind of where the resources might be." So we put her in the resources team where she's curating different sources of information, books that when you go to our website, you look for resources, they're there. Just had someone join last week. She said, "Hey, I'm really good at project management. I know how to edit video, and I'm really good at learning and development tools and content." Great. We put her with our learning and development team that's building our process for transformation that I asked you to be cohorts on, members of the cohort. So, it all comes down to what your skill sets are, what our needs are, and where you believe you can add the most value, but realize that you'll be on a team doing real stuff that we need done. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Okay.
The other group of questions I had, and then others from the chat, were around racism within the Black and minority community. So one of the questions was around African immigrants to America, engaging with Black Americans, kind of some kind of stigma and some isms between those groups and kind of a lack of alignment. As we have instead of having a genuine purpose, there's a bit of a gulf there. Have you experienced that within art? How do you address that within your art framework? If you do, if you could share that with us.
I'm going to let Adonai take the first stab at that, since she is an African immigrant and she's volunteering on ARC, and she lives in a community where she's working with a lot of different people, including, African Americans. So Adonai, what are your thoughts?
I definitely do have thoughts on that. I feel like my parents personally have experienced that in the workforce as well too, because they've definitely seen them being discredited because they are African immigrants and they do have like an accent as well. So for me, I think the solution towards this, to talk about the solution mainly, is I feel like most of the time African Americans and African immigrants haven't got the time to really sit down with each other and talk about this issue, because we always like to talk about racism outward, but not inward in our communities. I don't know if that makes sense, but inside our communities, right? So sitting down inside of our communities, and if there is those conflicts between us, to sit down and talk about it. I feel like having those conversations is really important, because that initiates talking about the problem. If we don't even know that the problem exists, we can never find a solution to it. So sitting down and talking about the problem that exists and find the solution to it is the first step to creating that change and to where we can solve that conflict that's kind of happening. Because I could tell that as my mother was talking about it to me, that she said it's because of their lack of awareness in the issue, both of their lack of awareness in the issue of racism, and to talk about it with each other is because of the reason why they have those conflicts, those little conflicts with each other, where they may not understand each other, even though we all are Black and that we all should recognize that. So that's kind of what I want to say on that issue.
Yeah, a couple other things I would add. One, I remember there was one time a white person asked me, can a Black person be racist? And I said, my answer was, in America, no, because racism is an institution. And by definition, Black people are a minority in a culture that's dominated by white people. White people have all the wealth. And so Black people really can't be racist in that system. Now, if we're in Ghana, it's a different situation. But here in the United States, it can't be. Now, Black people can be prejudiced. They can be bigoted. That's a different thing. Racism is holding down an entire race of people. Bigoted is not liking someone having predetermined notions about that individual. And I think sometimes as African Americans, Black Americans, we tend to do that with certain people. And I think this is one of the reasons why there's tension at times between African Americans and Africans. We think if, this is my opinion, we think if Africans don't assimilate and just become Black and take on our culture, that they're trying to be better. And at that point, then there becomes friction and tension. And colorism also starts to seep in. If you go and listen to, I did a 2 rounds or 2 episode series for Hispanic American Heritage Month last year. I think it was episode 8 and 9. And part of the focus was colorism in the Hispanic community, which is something that's not talked about, like it's not talked about as much. We talk about it probably more in the Black community, but they don't talk about that much in the Hispanic community, but it's very real. But just to give you an idea of what Adonai is saying, just talking about it was very cathartic for the 2 people I interviewed. One of them was a young lady who really lived through how she was treated differently than her sister. Her sister was lighter complected than she was. But because of that episode, one of our youngest ARC members, who's also Latina, she's now deciding to maybe do a blog on this because it awoke in her something that she's been noticing her whole life, but didn't really know how to put a finger on it. Now she realizes she's been involved in a colorist culture, that she was being colorist against different people of other Latin American communities simply because their skin was darker. She actually then addressed it with her parents and said, you guys kind of helped teach me this, and it's wrong. And she's going to do a blog on this. So just the act of talking about it from that one person, that one episode, impacted this young lady to now she's addressing with her parents and going to use her platform of blogging to try to make a difference. So I think, again, between African Americans and Africans, it's talking, it's communicating. It's not just saying, hey, you're Black, you just be like me. No, we're all individuals who are in the same struggle, but we have our own unique differences, and we should respect those differences by talking. So I really agree with Adonai's thing. It starts with the conversation.
Thank you, Donzel. Another question, and I'll focus this to Adonai first. You talked about your communication and talking being a critical portion of it. How do you change people's behavior or their perspective? So if you're talking about anti-racism with someone who was fundamentally adverse to the concept, how do you break down the barriers? How do you make that a productive conversation when you're met with resistance?
I feel like the best way to have those conversations when we all had different perspectives is, first of all, taking the initiative to have the conversation. Because here, this is how I'm going to take it. In our schools, we have those conversations in our class, and through creating SOAR, we allow people to have conversations where people have different opinions, right? And so there are conflicting opinions, but it's realizing that those conflicting opinions and those conflicting arguments are going to be there either way, right? Everyone's not going to agree in the world, and that's 100% true. Not all not going to have the same opinions. And if we all agreed in everything would be perfect in the world, right? So I definitely feel like just initiating those conversations and realizing that we are going to disagree, right? We are going to disagree. So one thing we do in SOAR is we have these circles. And so they're not just like normal discussion circles where everyone can talk whenever they can talk. But what happens is we have restorative circles. So we have a talking piece, and you can only talk when you have the talking piece. And you have to pass it clockwise around the circle. So you can only talk when you have the talking piece. That way people can speak about their opinions and speak about what they have to say, but there won't be any like conflicting disagreements, right? But we can argue about it in a peaceful way. I guess that's really what helped our organization, SOAR at our school, our club at our school, talk about these issues that are so controversial and that people have so many different opinions on in a peaceful way, and to try to truly hear other people's perspectives. Because I feel like having those conversations, even though we know we won't agree, is really, really important. So that answers the question. Thank you.
That's awesome, Adonai. You know, the only thing I would add is, you know, it depends on where you are in your journey. Again, you have to really work on yourself first, educating yourself, erasing your ignorance about what racism is. You know, really understand what racism and hate are all about, and do the work. Then educate yourself on anti-racism, and then start to build your confidence by surrounding yourself with like-minded people, like the folks at ARC. A lot of people on ARC, some of them joined to build their confidence, just to be around others that thought the same way, because they, you know, we had someone that said, I really want to talk to my mother, but I don't know how. I'm not sure how to approach it. So that's why they joined, to start building that confidence, to sit down and spend time and learn and figure out techniques on how to do it. So, you know, that would be one way, is make sure you got, especially if it's someone really close to you. The other thing to think about is, again, if you think about someone asking, can we eliminate all racism? I remember I tried to mention this earlier. I don't see it as every single person is never going to be racist. That's how I see it. Again, it's like, I'd like to be Oprah. I'm striving to get there one day, but the chances are I'm not going to get there. But I'm going to keep working at it, right? Well, to me, it's the same thing with what we're trying to do with these people. All of us know about the normative curve, right? You got the people all the way on the left. Those people are never going to change. You got people over on the right. They're already there. You don't need to work on them. The majority of people you got to deal with are the ones in the middle. And most of them are not the hardcore racists. They're the ones who know their buddy Joe is a racist, but they still want to golf with him because he's a good golfer. That's the guy we got to change. That's the guy. You know, it's the lady who, you know, has a friend of hers that she knows is doesn't like Asians, but you know, hey, she's a good, she knows how to get in the club, so I want to go. I want to keep hanging with her. That's the one we got to change. We got to work on those folks who think that, hey, I'm not racist. I just tolerate that, so that's okay. No, that's not okay. Those are the people we got to work on. Those conversations will be easier because they already don't think they're racist. You just got to get them to understand that what they're doing is, and you got to get them to understand they got to do something more. So what I would encourage you to do, if you got some tough people that are in your life, maybe don't start with them. Start with the ones who aren't doing anything, who are kind of thinking that it's okay to just not be racist. Then build your confidence, build your skills to then go to those tougher ones, especially those who are close to you that you really feel like you got to address and try to get them to change. So that's what I want, because what I don't want you to do is feel like, oh man, I got to go deal with my dad and it's going to be, oh my God. You don't have to do that right now. Start by working on yourself and figure out where are the ones I can start chipping off and building my confidence to get to that point. Does that make sense, Eric, what I'm saying?
It does, and I think you answered my last question. So I was going to wrap up with, what can we just go do now? You've painted a broad picture, you've clarified your vision and mission, and you've done the call to action to join you as a volunteer to contribute, that kind of thing. What's your message to the group on the call, or Adonai's message to the group on the call tomorrow at work, at home, in your family? Go do this one thing as a start.
Join ARC and start doing something. My man, Chris Cagle's on here. Chris is not a man of many words. He's not a man who's going to get up and give a speech, but Chris is talented at creating graphics. So Chris said, I will join, and I'm going to start with sharing my talent of creating graphics. And hopefully these graphics will help the social media team and the podcast and the deep dive bring more people in. He's doing something. He's doing something. Tommy's from China. He doesn't really know a lot about the history of the United States. He knows a lot because he had to go through the citizenship test. He didn't grow up here, right? So it's a little. He's got to learn. He's still learning. But he joined ARC, and he's saying, you know what? If I could take some of the stuff I'm learning and maybe translate it and send it to my friends in China, maybe that's a help. He's doing something. So everybody can do something. So instead of just saying, well, maybe I'll wait, I don't know about, just join and do something. Get involved. There's all sorts of things that you can do to help us. If not us, get involved with something in some way. Try to make a difference. Speak out, stand up, take action now. Don't wait. Do something now. That's what we need, people to help make things happen now. And ARC is a safer environment to make that happen, because it's all about transforming yourself first. As Adonai said, we're all still learning. I'm still learning. All of us are still learning. And we're trying to build a group that allows everybody to have a safe space to learn, to get better, and then to go out and start transforming other people, getting other people on board. So that's what I'd say. Get involved right now. Adonai, anything you'd add?
Nothing else. You definitely have to agree. Just try to do something. Try to do something. I definitely agree. Start by educating yourself and by joining ARC. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. And on behalf of the TC Band board and our attendees, we want to thank you both for joining us today, sharing your expertise and insight and your passion for the work. So thanks for joining us. This video will be on our YouTube site shortly. And so if you want to share it or review it, please do so. So have a good remainder of your day, and thanks for joining us. And
Thank you all very much.
Next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.